Hi, welcome to Tab Talk. I'm Jen Grover, and this week I'm joined by my friend Net. Some of you may remember Net from other videos where she's appeared. And this week we have a new guest, Mary Ann Mortensen. I met Mary Ann last week when I was camping at Mohican State Park in Ohio. Mary Ann was my campground neighbor, and I think her first words to me were, I'm trying to learn how to throw a bear bag. And from there, we got into a conversation about my tab. And then we talked about dogs and all sorts of things. We just had a great time talking to each other. So I've asked Mary Ann to join us this week because she has an amazing story to tell. And I wanted you all to get the chance to meet Mary Ann. So Mary Ann, let's start just by having you introduce yourself.
So, hi, I am Mary Ann, and I'm a 55-year-old woman living in Ohio, and I have a really fun dream I am about to pursue, which is unusual because I have been known up to this point as someone pretty much with some significant disabilities. I've had 7 back surgeries after a few fusions, and I have a lot of titanium hardware in my back. And so up at this point, I have thought of myself as kind of fragile and not able to do a lot of things. But so I am out to do something to break that image of myself to myself. So
that's awesome. You know, Net and I have a colleague who told us about a book called Antifragile. And we've talked about that concept just where people, sort of start to take on a fragility in life. So I love that you're trying to break through that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you and everybody else, why you were trying to learn to throw a bear bag. Like, what does that have to do with your anti-fragile stance and really what's going on in your life?
So yes, I have had these 7 back surgeries, and yes, I have this scaffolding in my back. But I live in a household of 3 healthy men. 2 of my young adult sons, they're very active. One's learning to fly. Another one started squirreling away backpacking gear because he wants to go in the deep woods. And I have a husband who's an ultra marathoner, and once a year runs a 100-mile race.
Oh, my goodness.
For me to be sitting around watching all these amazing things happen as a spectator is very difficult. And so I get competitive and I get a little jealous and I think, well, that's not fair. You can't, if you can do it, then I can do it. So they're really awesome in supporting me and coming up with some fun dreams, which is what I'm about to do now. And so the reason why I was learning how to throw a bear bag is because I have decided, my son and I, we are going to go hike the Appalachian Trail, which is a 2,200-mile trek from Georgia to Maine and everything in between.
That is so amazing. I am going to be cheering you on. I know Net's going to be cheering you on.
Yeah.
You will be in our prayers for sure. I just think that's the coolest thing. It's amazing with the TAB community. We hear about people who face all sorts of challenges, people who've had cancer or who are going through cancer, and their TAB has been sort of that escape from the stress of their treatment or a reward on the other side of it to enjoy life. A lot of people start to see life differently after facing potentially a life, altering or ending illness. We see people with disabilities. We see people with all sorts of challenges. And so I love that you're willing to break through barriers in order to take on this challenge. Like, what's that like for you? What are some of the things that you're having to sort of wrestle with and barriers that you're having to break through, beyond the physical? Like, what's that like for you?
So, I am immersing myself in the community of other alumni of the Appalachian Trail. And there's one gal who had lupus to the point that her lower extremities were basically paralyzed. She did this trail with her mechanical legs that the battery would wear out to a certain point and she'd have to walk straight leg. But she did this trail. And there's another man who's 83 years old who's on the trail this year. And there's another father who is carrying the ashes of his son who passed away when he was a boy from a childhood leukemia. And so as I delve into the stories of these amazing people who put life aside and strip down to literally a single pair of clothes, nothing fancy, no deodorant, no shampoo, but literally are stripped down to their barest essence of a person and are willing to commune and be together in this great pilgrimage. And it's a spiritual pilgrimage for many who are trying to overcome these things. And so if all of those people can do this, all I have to do is just put one foot in front of the other. And the famous saying that gets a little annoying because everybody says it all the time is you hike your own hike. And so there are no rules. You can go as slow as you want. You can take several years to do it. You can do sections at a time, or you can go breakneck and try to do the whole thing in one summer. So
that's amazing. I think finding inspiration from the community is something that you share with a lot of TAB people. There are people I know a woman in her 80s who last year sold her condo and went full time in her TAB at I forget, 81 or 83 years old, and she's thriving. She's doing amazing. I met her at nuCamp in 2019. nuCamp's our annual teardrop rally that nuCamp sponsors in Sugar Creek, Ohio. And it's amazing the strength that you can draw from community. That's honestly the thing that surprised me when I bought my TAB. I bought my TAB to travel. I didn't buy my TAB for community, but the community is amazing. Like the support, the care, the enjoyment we draw from each other is phenomenal. It sounds like you're already developing that, even though you haven't started yet.
Well, and there's something, and I've even experienced it already with you, is there's something called trail magic. And trail magic are these wonderful serendipitous moments that trail angels give to the hikers on this trail. And that is, it's a cooler of Coke and cookies that are just left on the trail. So whoever comes through that day. Another is people in the community will offer their homes for the hikers to go just get showers and do laundry and open their homes to people. This is called trail magic. And it's when we get away from all the stuff that's going on in this world and we reduce ourselves to our generous and kind and compassionate selves who are there to really support each other. And it doesn't matter what walk of life we come from and none of those outside. Somebody called the world outside of the trail as the synthetic world. And that is very, very true, because when you get in this lifestyle, and I would say for sure, like in the TAB community, when you have simplified your world and reduced it to such simplicity and authenticity, there's you really connect with the world and with other people in a very profound and deep way. And that's what this Appalachian Trail is. It's amazing.
Oh, that's neat.
I was having a conversation recently with a friend about that, Mary Ann, about she's getting ready to travel. I travel internationally a lot, and I like to travel with just a small day pack. Like, I don't care how long the trip is. And she's amazed by that. And I said, you learn something about yourself when you strip yourself down to the bare essentials, and you know for yourself what those bare essentials are. And you learn something that's about yourself that's really important to know. So I see that, like when Jen was talking about community, I see that a lot. There's something very special about these communities, like the TAB community, the hiking community, that is just, we need that. I think people in general want to be part of a community. And so we find it, we have a family. If we don't have a family, we find a family. We need community. If we don't have one, we make one. And I think our passions, the thing that I've seen with Jen, and now I'm hearing from you, is her passion has led her down a path that has led her to a community she can call her own. And I think the same for you. And there's something very special about that, because we're made for that. You know, we're made to be with other people, and our passions draw us together. So I'm just so inspired by what you're saying.
Yeah. And there's a fascinating thing that happens on the trail. When you start the trail, you're by yourself. But as you progress along, there's other people that are sort of going at your pace, or you all end up at the shelter. You know, maybe you took different speeds to get there, but you end up at the shelter and at night, and people are having deep and real conversations with each other. And I think people are really craving that authentic connection with each other. And so what'll happen is sometimes you develop what's called a trail family or a tramily. And so you're literally, you go through with this group of people, and sometimes these little tramilies will stay together all the way till you reach the summit of Mount Katahdin in Maine. And people are weeping by the time they reach the mountain, and because of the experience. And this experience, when you are together in these moments, are so profound that sometimes people can't even go back to whatever job they had before.
Right. It changes you so deeply that you can't return to your normal life.
That's right. And when you go back, sometimes it's very difficult because you see that everybody you left behind is still in the same rut. They're doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. And I think, you know, so I could fail at this. You asked, like, what am I afraid of, and what I could fail. This may not work. I do have a contingency plan that I have 4 weeks I'm committed to. And at that point, if I'm doing okay, then I will not be rescued. But, you know, we have some contingency plans if for some reason I don't make it. But I'm not allowed to quit for 4 weeks. So I can survive in a tent for 4 weeks. But,
you know, this conversation really leads me to something that Net and I have been talking a lot about. Net loves to read, and I love to listen about what Net has read. And Net has recently read a book called Joyful. It's the surprising. I forget the title.
I can't ever remember the subtitle.
It's a really long title. I'll put it in the description below the video.
Yeah.
But it's written by somebody who's the designer with a human-centered design or design thinking background. And she's done all this research and discovered 12 categories of aesthetics. And these are largely visual things that bring joy to people, you know, like color and shapes and light and things like that just bring you joy. And Net and I immediately talked about the tab. The tab brings us joy. Why? It's got this round, bubbly feel. It's colorful.
Cute.
It's cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, even I think the author even mentioned Comic Sans font bringing joy to people because it's cute. You know, and
it's cute.
And how it doesn't always align with what's considered good taste, but it's just something that makes us happy. Now, I consider the tab very good taste, but
it's very tasteful, Jen.
But, you know, are there things that you're packing? I know you're limited to what you can bring. You have to weigh everything very carefully. Like, are there things that you've picked because they bring you joy? You're packing that bring you joy?
Well, you have a yellow tent. You have a purple coat with pink lining. It's surprising on the inside.
I love that question. And I vacillate back and forth. I don't know if you remember back in the 80s, they had Color Me Beautiful. And so at the time I was a summer and, you know, and I loved the hot pinks and everything. And so I gravitate between that. But now with this reddish hair, I'm kind of trying to do more of the autumn earthy LL Bean chick. And so I go in between. But I love the question because actually I think about color all the time. And I shared with Jen my shoes, which when I added my lace locks, I had to have the orange because just how can you not be happy looking at that?
That's exactly right.
When I'm trekking through and slogging through a muddy, wet trail, I can look down and see this little piece of happiness right there. So that was one thing. And I mean, everything is picked for color. So here's something I found. This is my rain jacket. Now, most rain jackets are black. And so imagine the little lemon going up the trail and on a dark, dreary day, and people are just miserable because they're just soaking wet from head to toe. And then here I'm going to come along in the lemon. So
yeah, I love it. I love
that's
it.
so true. I have like a bright, it's I don't even know how to describe the color. It's almost a peach, but it's very bright. It's bold raincoat. And on a dark, dreary day, the color pops. And
of course.
I love to see the color pop on a dark, dreary day. I mean, who doesn't love to see that ray of light? I mean, I'm so glad we talked about this because it's been,
this is fun.
Yeah, it's something Net and I have been talking about, and I'm sort of, momentarily
exploring.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Jen, some of the other aesthetics that the author calls them is magic, which is the invisible forces and illusions. And it's talking about weather and sleeping outside when the meteors are going off, or something that brings us awe, that we're in awe of that's what nature's all about. Like there are so many, even a night with a full moon. It's been a full moon, in the recent.
Yes.
And I go outside and it's just amazing. I'm just in awe. And the other thing that's really cool with this list that we've been talking about, which is what I think you're sitting, is renewal. Like, what is it that we're joyful because we're doing things that renew our souls, and that brings us joy. And so it very much in line with what you're talking. So, I mean, it just applies the whole way through.
I think that's why people love camping. They love to be in their tab because it puts them in nature. Here you are with this cute trailer, and then you're experiencing the awe, the renewal from, I mean, there are all sorts of studies about how sleeping and camping, in nature restores your sleep. Like there's a restorative effect to camping.
Yes.
And I feel it when I've camped. The rest is great. Saturday night at the campground was amazing. It was silent.
Yes.
I slept like such a baby. So totally.
And you're outside all day. And then like you sit outside when you're camping, you're outside, you're socializing outside. You eat breakfast outside, wrapped in a blanket if it's 37 degrees, but everything is outside and you really only go inside to either sleep or make your food.
Right.
So there's just something very energizing about being in nature for an entire weekend, much less an entire 2,200 miles.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, Mary Ann, I want to make sure that for people who are interested, they know how to follow you along the journey. I know you're going to, when you can, share on social media. So how can people find you online?
So right now so everybody gets a trail name, and I've taken the liberty of naming myself, which is Titanium. My son is going to be Bilbo, and everybody gets a funny name that is unique to themselves. And so my Instagram is the Trekking Titanium. I have a Facebook page, the Trekking Titanium. And I think that's about what I have for the moment. I think that's about, I have YouTube, which is the Trekking Titanium. I think that's about all I'm going to be able to keep up with.
And I'll put a link to your accounts in the description below the video. Make sure you subscribe to Mary Ann's channel. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. That way you're notified when Mary Ann posts new content. And I think you're going to really enjoy following her journey. Will you come back on at the other end of the...
Absolutely. Yes.
I'd love to do
whatever it is.
I am so excited. And like I said earlier, I am definitely going to be cheering you on. And you will be in my prayers for sure. I really hope that it's a great experience for you, however long you're on the trail for, whether it's 1 month or whether it's 6 months. I hope it's just a phenomenal experience for you. I'm just so excited for all the stories that you'll have to share on the other side of this. And I hope that the viewers for my channel, even though it's not 100% tab related, are able to see the parallels and enjoy your story. I think it's just an amazing one. So thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. It's been a delight, and I am a tab wannabe, so I will be joining your community at some point.
That's so awesome. We love it.
Cannot wait.
We never get too big, but I want to thank everybody else for watching. We'll see you next time.